And we're live with another podcast. Mike here,
Mitch over here.
as always. And today we're going to talk about some signings that took place the last few days or so.
Yeah, the past week there's finally started to be some sort of activity.
After a long dead period since like the deadline
since July 1st,
Yeah,
pretty
exactly.
much. I guess that was mainly just because of the fact that, we had arbitration time of the year,
Right.
beginning of August.
So there was a
late
lot of
July.
like little signings, like
Mhm.
RFAs got signed to avoid the arbitration hearings and everything. But
So let's just get started going through
some
a
of
few
the bigger
these.
moves here that happened through these signings are
Mark Stone, 1 year, $7.35 million.
for Ottawa.
Yeah, for the Senators. He's 26 years old. He's
Mhm.
obviously a first-line winger. He's a great defensive winger as well. And this really just sets up, along with Cody Ceci. Although Cody Ceci, I do actually believe, has more RFA years left. But for Mark Stone, along with Erik Karlsson,
And Duchesne.
and Matt Duchene, giant parts of their
Yeah.
team
There's
are
a lot.
unrestricted free
Yeah.
agents following
al-
this season.
Yeah. And if you look at their whole team in general, there's only
Yeah. There are very few players that
there's
are
only
signed.
11 players that are signed for next season.
Yeah, so and that can be a good thing, just in terms of the fact that you can start over a
Yeah.
little bit with the Senators. You can
You won't have to worry about any big contracts, even though you still have Bobby Ryan's contract or whatever. But
yeah,
that
so
would be your most at 7.25.
you can pretty much start over, which is something they obviously need to do. I think
They've had a lot of problems lately.
those guys, Mark Stone, Matt Duchene, Erik Karlsson, they can be rentals that you can get a good amount for. I mean, they're all three of them are great players. There's definitely a lot that they can take back from those players at the deadline, which can help jumpstart the rebuild. And I know I keep hearing that, well, they don't have their own first-round pick this year,
Yeah.
so wouldn't that give them more incentive to want to win now because they wouldn't want that pick to be as good? In my opinion, I'd fuck that pick. The pick's gone.
Yeah, the pick's gone, and with the team you have, you don't really have a team to really compete.
Yeah.
I mean, these players are still good, but your overall team and seeing how well the Atlantic has improved, and we'll get to the trade that happened in a little bit, but just the whole them even getting close to making it
I don't think people think
difficult.
they're going to make the playoffs, but I've seen a few say that they should keep these guys around just to make sure that pick isn't so bad, almost to kind of save face, which doesn't make any sense to me because the pick's gone. It's not your pick anymore. Don't even think of it as your pick anymore. It's Colorado's. Just get the most out of these guys that you can, because at the end of the day, if you're not, you're just shooting yourself in the foot even more.
And if I was a Senators fan, I would want them to try to get something instead of having these guys walk and have an Islander situation like they have with Tavares. Get something for them.
Exactly. Yeah. And these are guys, Mark Stone, Erik Karlsson, Matt Duchene. If you trade these three guys, even as rentals, that can help jumpstart a rebuild. That can be a giant part of the team going forward. And obviously it helps that this is a team that doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of money.
Right.
They all you're going to get back are futures and young prospects and stuff. So it's not even it's not even like you're going to be taking on any salary, really. It's kind of a perfect situation for you. They
Especially
just need
a
to take
team that
advantage
doesn't
of it.
have that much money to begin with. So
Yeah, so moving on, John Gibson.
yeah, John Gibson was another signing that's happened.
8 years, $6.4 million for the 25-year-old goalie. And
that seems about right for him. I mean,
I think if you just go by his play, the fact that he's 25 years old, he's already one of the best goaltenders in the NHL.
Right.
The cap hit at 6.4 is perfectly fine,
and a lot of
not low.
A lot of what happens with the Ducks kind of revolves around how well he can play too.
But I think the
what
problem
also helps him is that they already have a pretty good defensive in front of them. So
Yeah, so that obviously helps. But I think the problem most people are having with this signing is the 8 years.
Right.
And the fact that goalies can turn to nothing very quickly.
We've seen that with Flyers signings with like Brizgalov and all that.
Yeah, so even when you're as great as John Gibson is...
Like, I'm sure even Canadiens fans are not the biggest fans of Price's...
Carey Price's contract. Is significantly bigger, but yeah, all of them hate it. And for a similar reason why people might grow to not like this contract, John Gibson's injured fairly often. He really hasn't played a full season as a starting goalie, so it's a bit of a risk there. Obviously, with his numbers, I mean, 926 save percentage last year, 924 the year before.
Right.
He's their best player, and they're like I just said, the cap hit wise, it's not high at all. It's just they're willing to go 8 years, and with him, that'll take him to 33 years old. Which at the end, that could be a little risky, but you're locking him up through his prime.
True. Which is what they would want him for. So
yeah, exactly. And another signing.
If he stays healthy, then that would be the thing.
Another signing from the 4th of August, William Karlsson signed just prior to his arbitration hearing for 1 year, $5.25 million, a show-me contract.
Yeah.
Karlsson obviously had a career year last year, scoring over 40 goals. Prior to that, his career high, I believe, was 11. Sorry, it wasn't even 11. It was 8. 9. 9 goals in 2015-16, 9 goals, 11 assists for 20 points. The year after that, 2016-17, 6 goals, 19 assists for 25 points. Last year, 43 goals, 35 assists for 78 points in 82 games. So if you're just going by that production on its own, then it's a steal of a contract.
Yeah.
But obviously, with that jump in production, you don't know if that's sustainable.
Right. You'd hope so. I mean, for as well as they did last year, you hope it can kind of boil over to this upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean, that line that he's on with Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith had so much chemistry last year. I have a hard time believing it won't at least in a somewhat carry over to this season. Although 40 goals, I don't know if that's really ever going to happen again for William Karlsson. Just in terms of how high his shooting percentage was, how big of a jump that was from any other season. Even in juniors or minor, there was no telling that this was going to happen.
But even if he falls off a little bit, not even like saying he gets 30 goals or something, like 20 or like 25 or something like that, it sounds like that would be a pretty good production for him. I mean, he would fall off clearly, but 2 puts up back-to-back 40-goal years.
Yeah, I think if you look at the cap hit, 5.25, that's paying for a guy to be about a 55-point player. I mean, he's also great defensively, so it might even be less than that. So as long as they can get that, or as long as he can get to that sort of production, he'll probably get a long-term deal at about the same average annual value. So I think this contract is what he's probably going to be looking at past the season, although maybe he produces just as much and then gets upwards of $8 million a year.
Or maybe now his game's just starting to get to him. Like his time in Florida.
Late bloomer,
a late bloomer. He's only 25, but maybe that's one of those things.
Yeah, so moving on to something more Flyers related. Robert Hägg signed a 2-year contract worth an average annual value of $1.15 million. 2 years, $2.3 million overall.
And shoring up the last of their RFAs that need to be signed for this offseason as well.
Yes. So Hägg, I'm happy with this contract.
Yeah.
First off, I was kind of worried that based on the amount of play time Hägg was getting, especially over some of the other young guys, that maybe Ron Hextall would value him as much as his coach does and pay him significantly more than this. So I'm definitely happy with this contract.
But near that tail end of last season, they were putting him in the press box more. So
it's true, but then
after
there
his injury and everything.
Yeah, so that was a little murky what the whole reasoning behind that was. But yeah, for Hägg,
I mean, compared to all other defensemen the Flyers have coming up, I mean, it's for the next couple of years. I guess it's good to have him, but
yeah, I think he's someone who's fairly expendable. I think he probably right now he's the third pair defenseman, which is
Yeah.
fine.
Mm-hmm.
There's no problem with
No.
that. I think that's pretty much all he's ever going to be.
Right.
So it's a good contract.
Mm-hmm. If for the most of the year, if you hadn't already, most people probably knew, but he led the league in hits, which was mentioned probably every broadcast. But he led the league in hits for the most part.
But yeah, for the most of the season until he was out with an injury, and then he was overtaken. But yeah, Hägg, I think we both kind of have him penciled into the lineup for this season, at least to start the year.
I find it hard for him not to be in the lineup, unless he completely screws up or has an injury or something. Then that would be the only way I would see him not making the lineup.
Yeah. So how do you see the defense shaking out for this upcoming year?
I think with the Folin signing that happened earlier in the offseason, that your 6 kind of are there, I guess you could say. Like you have I would hope you would still put Ghost with Provorov on your first pair. Second unit, you'll probably put like McDonald with Sanheim, and then Hägg and Gudas, unless you separate those two with Gudas with Sanheim and McDonald and Hägg. Like that.
I think I would probably, if I were to make, I think that's probably what's going to happen, what you just said. If I was going to make the lineup, I would rather have Gudas with Sanheim.
Right.
And then McDonald with Hägg, just because McDonald and Hägg didn't play too terribly bad together. I thought they were okay. And Sanheim and Gudas played very well together.
Yeah. And Hägg and Gudas are kind of that same thing as what they had before with Manning. I mean, Hägg is a better defenseman, I think, than Manning was, and how they're both kind of the similar type of defenseman.
Yeah, I think both Gudas and Hägg I wouldn't want together because neither of them are very good puck handlers, and I feel like both of them would kind of handle the puck like a grenade in their own end. So I think Sanheim, putting him with Gudas, I think that'll match the two of them up pretty well together. I think they should mesh well. They obviously did in the short period of time they played together. And then in terms of Hägg and McDonald, to me it's just stacking up your top 4 as best as you can, and then have that bottom pair be what it is. I wouldn't have too much confidence in it. But my big problem with this setup, as I just mentioned it, with Gudas and Sanheim, is I would assume they would put that as the third pair.
Yeah.
And then McDonald and Hägg would be the second pair, which may not turn out too well with them getting that much play time.
But they always change it every other game, so
that's true.
At least last season it seemed that way.
There's a lot.
And Folin can become the next Manning that's playing more than he should be.
Yeah. So in terms of
because Hägg-wise, I think he has more of a chance to be on the team than Sanheim does, and I think they're both going to be on the team or playing more.
Yeah, I think they're definitely. I would be very surprised. I would be absolutely shocked if Hägg wasn't in the starting lineup to start the year. I think he definitely will. Sanheim, he 100% should be in the lineup, and I expect him to be in the lineup.
Especially how well he played the end of last season and the playoffs and everything.
But with Dave Haxtell, you never know.
No.
In terms of the really good players that are good offensively, you just never know what he's going to do with those guys. So what do you think about the chances of a guy like Philippe Myers making the team?
I think he's going to have a longer look than he's had in the past couple preseasons. I know last preseason he was like one of the first to be brought down.
Yeah.
I know like the development game or like the rookie game that he was in, he didn't play too that well or whatever.
This past development camp he did get injured, which is always the case with
but
Myers.
Even this past development camp he was like the best player there essentially. But you can't really take much from that, but he's probably going to get a longer look this time. But if he makes it, I don't think he's going to make the team. I'll go back to the Phantoms, and at some point if there's an injury or something halfway through the season, he'll come up.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to end up happening.
Especially with Morin being out too, he kind of takes over where Morin was.
Yeah, I think Morin was someone who possibly could have been that number 7 and may not have necessitated them signing a guy like Christian Folin, because I think they would have been willing to put Morin as the 7, but I don't think with Philippe Myers' age, I don't think they're willing to put him in the press box for an entire season. I think with him only being 21 years old, I think they want him to play as many games as possible. They still think he's in a development phase, whereas I think Sam Morin is probably pretty much what he is at this point.
Right. He just needs to stay healthy, which
Exactly.
seems to be hard for him. But
So I think Myers has a shot if he really impresses. I think then maybe you could have a Sanheim situation like we did at the start of last year. But then again, we would have...
what I would like to see, maybe not this upcoming season, but whenever Myers comes up and with Sanheim, I would like a good two pair I would like would be Ghost and Provorov together and Sanheim and Myers together again.
Yeah, I mean...
That would be pretty good first two, and you can kind of flip-flop however you want with that one too.
Yeah, and that would be great just in terms of the fact that that second pair of Sanheim and Myers would also be a 6'3", 6'4" defenseman and a 6'5" defenseman. So there would be a lot of size on the ice there.
Something that really hasn't been on their blue line since Pronger maybe.
Yeah, so that would definitely add a different element in terms of just sheer size. Obviously, both of those guys are great offensively too. They're both great skaters. So that's definitely something I'd be looking forward to in the future. And they did have those two paired together this past season.
Yeah, but the season before they had Sanheim with Morin, so...
Yeah, they've obviously liked putting the young guys together just to see if they have chemistry, and then
Sanheim
maybe use them
just
going
seems
forward.
to be the one guy that gets chemistry with anyone he's kind of put with. So, kind of like we've seen with Gudas and Myers last season, Morin the year before.
Yeah, so I think in terms of defensively, I think Philippe Myers probably will not make the team. I think he's got a small chance. I think it's better than pretty much any would-be rookie on the team.
Right.
Guys like Mikhail Vorobiev and Morgan Frost have a chance for that 3C role, but I think they have less of a chance than Philippe Myers does defensively. But I don't expect any of those guys to really make the team. I don't even know if this team's going to have a rookie next season.
I don't know.
So,
and if you do, it's probably going to be like Abe Kubel or something.
Yeah, a fourth line winger or something like that. So what else we got here?
There was a trade that happened.
There was a trade that happened. I almost forgot about that guy. On the 2nd of August, a rare August trade.
Yeah.
Jeff Skinner traded to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for Cliff Pugh, who was a second-round pick in the 2016 draft, a 2019 second-round pick, a 2020 third, and a 2026 round pick.
Yep. He obviously makes Buffalo a lot better. And if you were doing our list again from the Atlantic, I would obviously have him higher.
Yeah, definitely.
I would still have him probably battle with Florida, but that's closer. I would probably still give the edge to Florida because I would think Hoffman's a better player than Skinner, but they're obviously improved. And they making this trade to me makes it seem like they want to compete sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a statement move for the Sabres. It obviously adds to that top line of theirs. I assume Skinner will be the right wing for Jack Eichel, which could be a massive improvement for Jack Eichel this upcoming season. We could really see him break out this year. Injuries have obviously stopped him from doing that. He was over a point per game last year. This is big for them. In terms of the return for Carolina, I am very surprised.
Yeah, Cliff Pugh. A couple picks.
Cliff Pugh was a second rounder in 2016. He's okay.
Yeah.
He never really broke out in juniors. He'll be in the AHL with the Hurricanes. He'll be in Charlotte this year.
But that was kind of the thing going in from like the beginning of the offseason that there was the rumors of Skinner being traded. So
I think the expectation was that they would get more. Although as reports have come out, Skinner had a no move clause, and he used it. He used it to control the situation and made it more difficult for the Hurricanes to move him and get a bigger deal.
And obviously he would easily make Eichel and him together would obviously be a good pair or duo.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and like you said, I think this leapfrogs the Sabres into that 5th spot in the Atlantic, in my opinion, behind the Maple Leafs and the Lightning, Bruins,
Panthers.
and Panthers. I still have the Panthers ahead of them, although I think the Sabres could potentially pass them.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't necessarily... I definitely wouldn't guarantee the Sabres make the playoffs. I don't think they will. But I think this definitely actually gives them a chance to, which I don't think they had before. Just in terms of...
They have just as much of a chance that Florida did last year, I was going to say. Where it comes down to the very end.
Yeah.
and how well they play in division and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this greatly improves Eichel's production for this season.
Yes.
I think Skinner could have a great year this year.
Because that was always Eichel's thing, is that his wingers were never really anything yet.
Yeah, he
So
had
you're hoping
Evander
that-
Kane for a while, but he
Yeah.
never really.
They never really played them together either. With Evander Kane, he was always like a second line winger. They were using him as, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you have Skinner, you hope maybe that makes Eichel have a career year this year, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this gives them something
And
that
they also got Sheary earlier in the season
Mhm.
in a trade with Pittsburgh.
if you compare them to Florida, who's the team that they're going to be battling for that final wild card spot, along with a couple teams in the Metro, maybe a team like the Devils, I think this gives them more top end talent than a team like the Florida Panthers do. I think the Panthers have more depth. I think Alexander Barkov's probably the best player on either team. But outside of that, in terms of just high end, I think Jeff Skinner is. I would actually prefer Jeff Skinner over Mike Hoffman, barely, but I think he's probably a better player.
He doesn't have the drama that goes with him either.
Yeah. Then you have Rasmus Dahlin.
Yeah.
Coming in this season, who I expect to have a great rookie year. They're already probably a number one defenseman for the Sabres.
He'll probably be with Ristolainen.
And then add in Jeff Skinner. I think that they have a young core of this team now. That looking forward, they're going to be one of the best teams in the league in about 3 or 4 years. Right now, maybe not, but in the future, I think they're definitely building to become a Stanley Cup
Atlantic
contender.
really improved this offseason, though. Buffalo did. Toronto, obviously.
Yeah, all of the good teams improved, and then also Buffalo.
Yeah.
If you look at like Ottawa and Montreal, then maybe not.
No.
But I don't know how much they were trying to improve.
No.
But yeah, the Atlantic has definitely gotten better. They've definitely gotten deeper. Last year, they obviously had Buffalo, Toronto, and Tampa Bay, and then not much else.
Yeah,
Florida
Boston.
came on at the end of the year, but they definitely improved the depth of the division this year.
It makes it a little closer to see what happens wild card wise.
Yeah, and now it gives the option of.
Yeah.
I expect the Atlantic to take one of the wild card spots now. Whereas
I could see him taking over New Jersey, or the
Exactly.
spot New Jersey had, or even Columbus possibly.
So yeah, I think this definitely greatly improves the Atlantic division. It puts them right there with the Metro. I think the Eastern Conference is pretty significantly better than the Western Conference now.
Yeah, they are. Well, Central's just a lot closer, but yeah.
The Central's a great division. It might even be the best division, but the Pacific's just terrible.
It's true.
So yeah, I think this greatly improves the Sabres. For the Hurricanes, I'm not quite sure what their direction is here.
I don't know. Either.
I never really understood the trading of Jeff Skinner.
No,
Unless
I don't understand what they've kind of been doing this offseason. I don't know if they're trying to blow up house this offseason kind of thing, just because every year they're always a team on paper that looks like they're going to do it but never do.
Well, it just seems like they're trying to go both ways. You trade for Dougie Hamilton, who's a great defenseman, so that makes your team better. Are you going for it now? But then you trade Jeff Skinner away, which is a move that a team who's rebuilding would do, and they're not necessarily
Even
that
though
team.
Yeah.
So it's just confusing me what direction this team is going in. They seem to be going both ways, and I really don't like this trade for the Hurricanes. I understand that with the no move clause that they had some trouble.
And they are very high on Spencer Cause, so I guess they kind of wanted him to take over the Skinner spot. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that could play a part in it. But I think I lost track of what the fuck I was saying. I think the Hurricanes, I don't know. This trade, I think that they here we go. I think that they should have. I understand that Jeff Skinner and the no move clause might have made this a lot harder for them and made it so they couldn't get as much as they could have without the no move clause in a trade. But I think they should have waited until the trade deadline and maybe a team gets desperate.
Yeah.
And
if
they
you're
offer
falling
more
off or something.
Yeah, so I think that would have made a lot more sense than trading him now. Jeff Skinner is a free agent at the end of the year, so maybe the Hurricanes were told by Skinner, I'm not re-signing with you.
Yeah, kind of like a Panarin thing, but not really out.
Yeah,
in the public, but
I get it in terms of them trading him, I guess, but just the timing of it in terms of the value they got back, I really don't understand.
Yeah, I don't either.
So are we gonna wrap up here?
Yeah, I think we can wrap this up. Yeah, see ya.
See ya.